What is up, ladies and gents? It's your boy, Junkyard Jimmy. We are here live. We're going to talk about the assumption of risk here today on the Junkyard. So without further ado, let's get going. This is the Junkyard. Like I said, this is the Junkyard Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Junkyard Jimmy. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button, like this video, and share it. Get this page, the Junkyard Media Group, worldwide here. I have to get some things off my chest today, though, about pro wrestling. And some kind of things have been going on, and to me, what seems to be a form of hypocrisy when it comes to certain groups of the wrestling fans. And it's hypocrisy to me, not because they don't call out specific instances and multiple groups, for instance, when one company does a risky stunt, they call it out, and then they may call it out on the other side of the aisle, but they're far less active in that other group's demise over the main group. And more specifically, it seems like a lot of these people they give WWE a lot more slack when it comes to the stunts and the spots that they do compared to AEW. And in particular, I'm thinking about like Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay's match at Forbidden Door a few weeks back. Everyone, and what is, I guess, called the casual wrestling community, they got up in arms about how dangerous the spot was. The Tiger Driver 98 that was performed, and that we as fans should somewhat push for these type of moves and these type of spots to cease to exist, and that we shouldn't cheer for Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay and the countless other people that do these types of spots. And yet nothing about WWE and the countless spots. It's, I put a TikTok out the other day of this, of one of the members here sharing his thoughts and a quick little TikTok rant about how Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay spot was just dumb and whatnot. And I shared like they're so slow to respond to Ricochet and Logan Paul and their spot at Money in the Bank just a few days ago. I haven't seen one person, not this person in particular, not anybody in this so-called casual wrestling community, say one thing negatively about Logan Paul and Ricochet. They give so much slack to the WWE, and they're so hard on AEW. And at some point, I wonder if it's not the moveset that they're upset about, it's the company that's allowing the moveset to happen is the reason why they're so up in arms. But I want to talk about, to start off the show here, the assumption of risk. And here's how I look at it. And Kenny Omega actually responded to all of these people who are saying, like, should he have done the move? And his response essentially was, if I didn't feel like I could have done it safely, then I would have never done it at all. If he didn't feel like he could do it, he wouldn't have done it. And I feel like people don't understand this. Kenny Omega is a 17-plus year pro. Will Ospreay is a multi-year pro in the wrestling business. They know what they're doing. They've traveled the world and done these moves hundreds of times. They are focused on safety, but it's entertainment. And at some point, you have to go out there and hit moves that make it seem like the other guy is in danger. That's the point of wrestling. Hell, back in the 90s, Brian Pillman brought a real gun and was about to shoot Stone Cold on live television. It's part of the story. It's part of the entertainment. And there's that assumption of risk. I can name countless people that have been injured doing the most simplest of moves that are essential to the fundamentals of pro wrestling. And yet those moves don't get scrutinized because they're simple, but the ones that have an elevated risk are always the ones that are scrutinized. And here's my opinion. It's part of the show. It's part of the job. The wrestlers know there's an assumption of risk. Every time they step in the ring, they could end up leaving the ring a little more injured than they came into the ring. And so there is an assumption of risk. It is a contact sport. It is entertainment, but it is a contact sport. And as much as football is a contact sport. Like we're not going to take the tackling out of football. We're not going to take the hitting out of hockey. And we're not going to take the body slams and the contact out of wrestling. It's an integral part of the source of entertainment. And so there is an assumption of risk that comes with being a pro wrestler. And I don't think it's necessarily that they're calling out the move, because I can see that is a dangerous move, but they're calling for them to stop doing it. Yes, maybe, if you look at it, Kenny doesn't land on his neck. Kenny doesn't land on his head. He lands on his shoulder. And yes, that does damage to his spine. That does damage to the back. But it's the safest way to land that move. But because there's an elevated risk, and more honestly, because it's AEW allowing it to happen, and because WWE bans moves and AEW won't, I feel like they're up in arms over nothing. It's literally nothing. And they're claiming they want to make wrestling safer, and we want to see these people have long, healthy lives after their wrestling career is up. But like Hulk Hogan's finisher was a leg drop, and that did a lot of damage to him. A leg drop did a lot of damage. Like let's go through the list of some of these. Seth Rollins injured Sting on a buckle bomb. Took him out for several years. WWE would never clear him to wrestle again. Finn Balor got hurt on a buckle bomb. Drozdov, R.I.P., took a power slam be wrong way from D'Lo Brown. Paralyzed. Simple move. They've even said they've done it to each other several, hundreds of times. Just this one time, it just didn't end up the right way. So there's the assumption of risk. Let's think of more. Brian Danielson, right? WWE, it took them forever to clear him. Edge, neck problem. It wasn't because they did some spectacular, stunt that caused his neck injury. Page, Enzo Amore, for Pete's sakes, gave himself a concussion, hitting the rope the wrong way, exiting the ring. And so there is an assumption of risk when you become a wrestler. And I know I'm repeating that phrase, but that's the phrase I want you to understand. There is an assumption of risk. And it is not fair for some guy on the sidelines who's never laced up the boots, who's never had a match, who's, they call themselves casual fans. And I'll get to that in a minute, but they're the most hardcore fans when it comes to this stuff. Because they're the biggest, complainers about it, more so than the actual hardcore fans. But they call themselves casual, so my assumption would be that they've never laced up the boots, they've never ran the ropes, they've never had a match. They're just watching it Monday morning quarterback style, right? And it's not fair for them to say, hey, maybe you should not do that. Hey, maybe you should do it, more safer moves. It'd be like if I had a clogged toilet to the one that I couldn't unclog myself, and I had to call a plumber out, and I watched the plumber do what he had to do, and he was like, "Well, your toilet needs to be replaced. It's so badly clogged, the toilet needs to be replaced. The pipes need to be replaced." And I was like, no, I think we can just unclog it this way. They're like, why? How do I know? Why would I call the plumber out if I knew what to do? Why am I calling the plumber out? Why am I questioning a professional? These guys are professional wrestlers. This is what their job is. They go in there day in and day out. And if they didn't think they couldn't make the move safe, they wouldn't even try it. The point of wrestling is to entertain the crowd. And I saw this diagram a few weeks ago talking about the different styles of wrestling and how they entertain the crowd. And actually was pretty spot on. So you think about in Mexico, a lot of Mexican wrestling is based on pageantry and luchadors, and this pageantry and this artistic style of flipping and that's how they tell their story. It's through the pageantry of wrestling. And you go to the Americas, North America specifically, and the United States, and their type of wrestling is based on, the storyline is not based so much on the move set, but based on some sort of ethical qualm that the characters have with each other. So what is right and what is wrong? And perfect example is the Roman Reigns story. The Usos were tired of taking Roman Reigns' narcissistic bullshit, and therefore they turned on him because that was what was right for them to do. And so it's an ethical qualm in these states, more so than what moveset you have. You're telling a story through the basis of right and wrong. And you go to Europe, and it's, the story is basically who's the strongest wrestler? Who can do the most damage in wrestling? And so you get this European style of stiff chops and it's not Japanese strong style, but it's British strong style, German strong style. It's just the power of who's the toughest and strongest and most badass wrestler. And that's Europe. And then you get to Japan, and the story is told through the ring. So the whole character arc is told in the match. And so you take a look, and you can tell, you can know a Kazuchika Okada match because they all start and end basically the same way. It's really slow. and you're getting to know the characters. There's not a lot of development in the match. These matches take quite a while to get going, and then they start going and start introducing their skill sets, and then we hit the climaxes when all the most action is in and the match speeds up, and they're telling a story from start to finish in the ring, and then they hit the climax, and then they go down, and now there's resolution, and the match ends. And so you got to understand where Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay spent the most of their time wrestling: Europe and Japan. And so they mix those styles of wrestling together, and it may not be your style of wrestling. And so this is my response to all of these people. If you don't like these types of moves and these types of spots, turn the channel. Watch something else. Watch what you want to watch, and then turn the channel. When you don't want to watch it, don't critique it, because you haven't laced up the boots. I'm sorry. I am a person that if I can't do what I'm complaining about, I'm not going to publicly complain about it. I'm not going to make a statement, saying, well, I don't like X, Y, and Z when I know I couldn't do it myself. If I've never laced up the boots, how can I critique the move set of a character? That's not my place. As a fan, and this is really how I feel about it. As a fan, I feel like our job as a fan is to do what fans were supposed to do, and that's cheer the babyface and boo the heel. Right? Like you can like the heel, but you're supposed to boo them, because that's their job, is to get you to hate them in the storyline. And we've gotten so far away from like the fundamentals of like what a fan is supposed to be in pro wrestling that none of that happens anymore, and everybody feels like they have to have their need to complain. Let me tell you this. There's an assumption of risk in pro wrestling. But it's not our job to call out this risk. Just like it's not our job to call out the risk of some acrobat in the circus. Or for me to call out the assumption of risk and say, maybe you should do it safer to Evel Knievel as he's jumping, or his son as he's jumping, he's getting blown out of a cannonball hole, He becomes a human cannonball, It's for entertainment. And if Omega and if Ospreay feel comfortable doing these type of moves, and they know that they can perform them to the top level of class and safety, then I have no issue with it. And I have no issue with Logan Paul's spot. I felt like it was a little sloppy. I felt like they didn't stick the landing the way that they were supposed to on the ropes, which made their fall onto the table more dangerous than it had to be. But at that point, you're 95% there. You got to finish the moveset. You got to finish the spot, or else you can, ruin the flow of the match. And it's all for entertainment. That's the point of wrestling, is to entertain the crowd. And so you got to do whatever you can to entertain the crowd. And not every match has to have the overabundance of stiff shots and these specialty moves. But, I think they're okay, and they should be allowed in the industry. I don't think we should call them out. There's no way that we can prevent injuries in wrestling. There's no way that we can become 100% safe. There's a reason WWE, even in the video game, puts "do not try this at home" everywhere that they go, because there is that assumption of risk, and they are trained professionals who know what they're doing. And by limiting what can be done, we make the product less entertaining for the fans and less safe for the profession, for the individuals. You know what I'm saying? It's just like football. They tried to make it so that hits to the upper body were like not, I wouldn't say not allowed, but discouraged. And it ended up making more players have lower body injuries than ever before. And one, every cause has an effect. And so there is that assumption of risk. And until you strap your boots and you run the ropes, I don't feel it's our place to make a statement about who should do what moveset in pro wrestling. And I got a couple more things I wanted to mention. And the first thing is the so-called casual wrestling fan, and I said it earlier that, or casual wrestling community, I said earlier that I feel like they're the most hardcore because they're the ones complaining about everything. They complain about so much, dude. Like, and it's usually against AEW because they have a different style than America. But like, here's a couple things I want the casual wrestling fans to understand. America's not the dominant wrestling market like you think it is. That's why WWE is going through extreme lengths now to try to get international, and they're going to London, and now they're going to have a show in India, and they're trying to have these, and Impact Wrestling went to Australia a couple weeks ago, and we're about to go to Wembley for AEW. The international market, anything outside of North America, is the strongest market of pro wrestling fans in the world. The American market doesn't mean shit to the global infrastructure of wrestling. Like what we have here as terms of like the indie scene doesn't even compare to what the indie scene looks like in England and Germany and Australia and all of the other European countries and Oceanic countries, Japan and all of those areas. Their independent scene tramples our independent scene. And I love the independent shows in the States. We should support independent wrestling. But there's not even a similarity between the two. Outside of the States, the indie scenes are almost as popular, if not more popular, than WWE, AEW, New Japan, and all of that. They're really taken seriously over there. Not that we don't take our indie scene seriously, but like there's no comparison between the two. So let's stop thinking that like just because WWE gets 2.5 million viewers in the States, that they're the best wrestling show. Like AEW only gets 830,000 people watching Dynamite. What's the number worldwide? Let me tell you right now. The AEW video game was the number 3 best-selling video game of the last 7 days. It hasn't even been out a week yet. It's already number 3 worldwide. The worldwide market loves wrestling. So no, I don't give a fuck about how wrestling does in some specific market. What is it doing on a worldwide scale? Who's the most popular wrestling company worldwide? And that's the metric that I want people to understand. Why is Warner Brothers okay with and Discovery okay with AEW getting 830K for Dynamite in the States? Because they're matching that or more worldwide. And so they got, and those numbers are a bit skewed because typically one view is about 1.5 people. And this is the math that Eric Bischoff always does. One view is 1.5 people. So if it's 850,000 viewers, there's actually probably close to 1.3 million people watching. If it's 900,000 viewers, it's typically somewhere around 1.35 million people view. Like, that's how you kind of have to understand is Nielsen rates one TV stream as a view and not everybody watching. And so you might have 4 people in the house watching one show, and so that only counts as one viewer. Anyways, what's the worldwide market? So listen, casual fans, the worldwide market means more than the U.S. market in pro wrestling. That's why everybody's making their biggest attempt to go worldwide now. Here's another couple things. If you don't like something, don't fucking watch it. You don't have to sit here and complain. That's my biggest thing. Is they call themselves casuals, and yet they complain about literally every minuscule issue that AEW or WWE or Impact Wrestling or whatever the fuck they want to talk about is wrong, as if they have a better plan to fix it. And here's my last plea. If you know how to fix the wrestling industry, create your own goddamn promotion. Don't sit here through a camera and just tell us how everybody's doing everything wrong. Go and do it yourself. If you know so damn much about how to fix the wrestling industry, go and do it yourself. And lastly, I want to talk a little bit about Roman Reigns. Got pinned by Jey Uso for the first time he got pinned in 3.5 years. And so I like the way that the story is going as it is. I just hate one thing. Roman is still champion. Now, I know you can make Roman losing the champion mean a lot to whoever takes it, whether that be Jey Uso or Damian Priest or whoever the fuck it may be. It can still mean a lot even with Roman getting pinned. That's not my complaint. My complaint is this should have been the big moment where Cody Rhodes is champion and Roman, Roman could have lost to Jey Uso or Jimmy Uso here, taking the pin, and that be it. Like, that's the thing is, like, the WrestleMania match should have been Sami Zayn, Cody Rhodes, and Roman Reigns in a triple threat, where Cody wins or Sami wins by not pinning Roman, but by pinning the other competitor. Therefore, Roman doesn't look weak. And then this happens where Jey Uso can finally pin Roman. He doesn't have a title still on him. Like, that's my complaint, is that he still has the title. And so he's a weak champion right now. And so I kind of already see the writing on the wall that he's going to lose at SummerSlam, because my feeling is Roman is getting ready to go on a pretty big hiatus. And he won't show back up probably until Royal Rumble or WrestleMania next year. And so that's my biggest complaint, is I understand where you're doing it. Roman hasn't defended that championship, I think, since WrestleMania. That's why they put Seth Rollins as the champion, and I get that. But, like, he's fighting in matches and not defending the title, and it's like, when is he going to defend the title again? And I know the answer, SummerSlam, but come on, you have, like, that. I hate when a champion fights in a match that's not for the belt on a pay-per-view. And he takes the pin, and I like the way that this story is going to, Roman's going to unravel. Apparently this Friday they're putting Roman on trial in the tribal trial or whatever they're calling it. And this is going to be a good storyline. And I now admit the last couple of weeks I have been really pretty interested in the storyline. I like that Roman took the pin. It's going to make him losing the championship mean more. Now people know that he can be beaten. The story now can be that when Roman doesn't have the Usos in his corner, he's not that strong of a champion anyway. But to me, we could have led to the point that we have now, because Roman hasn't defended the title since WrestleMania anyway. We could have had him lose at WrestleMania in the way of he didn't take the pin, but he lost. And had it lead to this moment where this is now the climax of the feud, and every subsequent thing after now can lead to the resolution being that Roman Reigns is no longer tribal chief. But instead we have Roman beat Cody. And I'm going to go back to this because I think they made a colossal mistake by not letting Cody win that championship at WrestleMania. And at the end of the day, the story is great right now. The Bloodline story is great right now, but I feel like it would have been a little bit better. It would have meant a little bit more, I think, had Jey won and Roman still not have the title. Roman lost. The Usos could have lost the tag championships to whoever they wanted it to be, and created a really good tag division. And then had Roman just go down this road of like, now he got pinned. Now where's it going to go? That's my only complaint about it. I think it was perfectly executed. I honestly was shocked. I kind of thought we would see Guerrillas of Destiny God show up, but they didn't. And I guess they're still in New Japan, or maybe they're still free agents. I'm not sure exactly what's going on with them. But it was a good show. Money in the Bank. Honestly, it was from start to finish. It was actually pretty fun to watch. I'm not a big WWE guy, so when I'm giving them compliments, it doesn't be Forbidden Door. And see, it's not fair for me to put Money in the Bank up against Forbidden Door, because Forbidden Door was pay-per-view of the year for me. It was pay-per-view of the year. And Ospreay and Omega at Forbidden Door was match of the year. I've already wrote that in. If I do a yearly recap at the end of the year, it's going to be Forbidden Door pay-per-view of the year, Ospreay Kenny Omega at Forbidden Door match of the year, unless at All In they do Omega versus Ospreay Part 3, and that might be match of the year, So Forbidden Door, at least right now, is pay-per-view of the year for me. Nothing's going to beat that. But Money in the Bank was really good. I'm okay with Damian Priest being the guy that has the case. Other than that, like I can't complain about the pay-per-view. I'm happy my girl Liv got the belt. I'm happy Gunther retained. WWE's putting good shit together. I was shocked when Cena came out, but I love that they did that promo promising WrestleMania, and I feel like they only did that because AEW is going to Wembley in August. That's the only reason I feel like they had Cena go and do that promo, is to be like, you know what, you might get an All In, but we'll give you a WrestleMania. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're just trying to sabotage the crowd there a little bit there. Overall, yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. My hope was that I would have had a couple guests come in, and I could have spent a lot more time talking and conversing about the assumption of risk and where's the line in wrestling, because of safety and risk and all of that. But that fell through. And anyways, y'all, just a quick little chat here with you. This has been another episode of the Junkyard Podcast. I'm your host, Junkyard Jimmy. And until next time, I will see you then. This has been the Junkyard.